All right, so I wrote a blog post right before we left for this trip. We posted it on the website, and I was going to do a podcast episode on it. I tried to do a solo one night by myself discussing it, but I kept having numerous technical difficulties because I am camera illiterate. Can't figure out how to fucking work anything. So basically, the blog post was titled "How to Crush Your 2022 Training Goals for Your Dog." Right. So, obviously, forever we have people reaching out to us for training. We got so many people out there that are struggling with their dogs. We got so many people out there that are wanting to improve on things, right? And I think a lot of times, actually, you know what kind of sparked this is I had a client reach out, right? This is a couple weeks ago. They were interested in doing training. They were like almost gung-ho committed. They were going to sign up for the board and train. Mm-hmm. And the lady reaches back out to me a couple days later, and she's like, you know what? I talked to my boyfriend. My boyfriend decided that he's going to spend the next couple weeks training the dog himself so that we don't have to purchase a training program. So I'll let you know if anything changes. And it's like, listen. I replied back. I was like, it's obviously it's a big commitment. Signing up for professional training is a big commitment. It costs a lot of money. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of your time, and it's not as easy as everybody makes it out to be, right? No. But here's the thing, right? It's not that I'm saying you can't get training done by yourself. It's not that you can't find major results, right, from your training by yourself. The issue is so many people are so lost when it comes to what they need to do, you know? This idea of, well, I'm just going to train the dog myself. It's like, okay, what does that mean? Yeah. What does that look like? What do you have to do in order to find success with that kind of stuff? Because it's not as simple as like, let me just start making my dogs sit at doorways and let me just make them walk next to me with the leash and stuff. It has nothing to do with any of that kind of stuff, right? And frankly, even when you get into more serious behavioral issues, right? I have a client that reached out to me, and they had an incident on Christmas Eve with their dog and another dog that was 100%. And the dog is a very social dog, but the dog got into a fight with another dog on Christmas Eve, right? And it was 100% a result of just improper socialization, right? It was 100% a result of not setting the dog up for success with things, right? And a lot of this comes down to so many of your issues that you're having with your dogs are not training related issues, right? Mm-hmm. These issues are, typically speaking, knowledge issues. They're you just understanding your dog and understanding the things you need to be doing with your dog at a much deeper level in order to find success and in order to know what's going to be good for them and what's not going to be good for them, right? Mm-hmm. You could have all the training in the world, but if you don't know what to do with it, it becomes a problem. Right? Yeah. With great training comes great responsibility, if you will.
Oh, you just had to, didn't you?
Just had to throw it in there, right? So our job as trainers is to give you that knowledge. We're going to teach you how to train the dog, obviously, in a more efficient way than you typically will know how to do. And we will help set your expectations and all of that kind of stuff, obviously. Mm-hmm. But the training itself is a small part of it, right? It's us coaching you through. Like we had to have, we're going to be doing a session, obviously, with this client, teaching them these are the situations that are going to be appropriate to socialize your dog in, and these are the ones that are not going to be appropriate to socialize your dogs with, Yeah. So whatever. So I made this list, this blog post here, just breaking down some of kind of the things that I would do if I were a new owner trying to find success with my dog in the new year, right?
I like it.
All right. So thing number one here, naturally, like we just discussed, hire a trainer.
Yeah.
Number
one.
Regardless of how competent you may be with training, regardless of how many YouTube videos you watch, even our own DIY YouTube videos, stuff like that, hiring a trainer is going to be your best chances of success. I always said, I was like, it's so easy to fall for your internal ego that we could do this on our own. But the fact of the matter is they're professionals for a reason. We know the best and most efficient ways to do things. We will be able to see the flaws in your training better than you, and we will be able to push and motivate you to achieve much more than you thought possible in a much shorter period of time. It may be expensive, but it will exponentially increase your quality of life with your dog in a shorter window of time, right? What was that post I don't remember if we talked about it on here or not, that the Chris Doe posted where he talked about what is an expert. An expert is somebody that's failed more times than they've succeeded to find the solutions to every problem that it could occur.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Again, we've talked about that. The reason why a professional is going to be so good is, and I quote Mark Goldberg, we read some of his books on here, obviously. He made a post years ago that still to this day resonates with me, where he was saying, a lot of people that say, I've trained all my own dogs, right? And this one just won't get it, or some sort of variation of that. A lot of those people, he'll be like, well, how many dogs have you had that you've trained? And they'll say at the absolute most 10, something like that.
Yeah.
Right? To which he'll always respond back, I've trained that many just today. Right? Meaning we've experienced 100 times more situations, even more than that sometimes, right? Than you will ever experience with your own personal dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So something that may take you literally years to figure out the solution for with your own dog, we will know that solution like this.
Yep.
Right? We'll be able to look at that scenario and be like, oh, well, this is why that happened. Right? As soon as the person called me about, hey, this happened on Christmas Eve, right? Boom. This is why this happened. This is exactly why this happened just based on all the information that you're telling me. And this is how to make sure that never happens again, right?
Yeah.
We have those solutions because we've seen so freaking much, So having a trainer, at your disposal for this is just going to make the process easier. It's going to make it better. And then a lot of what we look at, we see this with our clients post-board and train, right? A lot of times people will see improvement with their dog and they'll be okay with just improvement, right? Where we'll be able to push them that extra notch to not improvement, but closer to perfection, so they could realize just how much that dog is actually capable of with these types of things.
Yeah.
Right? So hire a trainer. If it's within your financial means, I know it's expensive. You got to just look at it as a long-term commitment, right? Look at how much money you spend over the course of 10 years on car insurance.
Yeah.
Right? It's probably a fucking lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Look at this as your dog's insurance. Right? That initial training payment that you make is your insurance that for the rest of your dog's life, you'll be able to enjoy them to the fullest. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, second thing here. Define your success. Write out your goals, right? So many people don't know what they want to accomplish, right? So I put here, I said, instead of having broad goals like less anxiety or more confident, which are the number one things I have people call me about. They're like, I just want to improve confidence, right? Like, again, equating this to a phone call I made recently. Talked to somebody, she's like, oh, I saw that you guys include an e-collar, but my dog suffers with massive fear issues, right? She said, is that a shock collar? And I explained, it's not necessarily a shock collar, but it is electric stimulation. This is how we use it, et cetera, et cetera. She's like, and I think she said something like, she's like, oh, well, maybe you don't understand what I originally asked. She's like, I'm looking to increase my dog's confidence. Like, it was kind of like a passive-aggressive little, whatever.
Oh, my God.
And I explained, I was like, I understand that. And I wound up sending her 3 YouTube videos that we've done in the past on using e-collars with fearful dogs, et cetera, et cetera. But the problem is that whole dilemma of a conversation was created from not having a clear enough goal, right? So, like I said, instead of having broad goals like less anxiety or more confident, look for the specific issues related to those general goals and where it's really inhibiting your day-to-day, like, in quotes, doesn't come when scared or breaks out of crate when anxious or any number of additional things, right? You really have to detail what are the problems we're having right now. What are the things that I want to improve on, right? And that's what helps you be able to define what success is and know where you need to practice things, right? Because again, 90% of people that call me, their dog already kind of knows stuff, right? They already kind of know sit, they already kind of know down, they already kind of know come. But by being able to broadly describe this is where I'm having an issue, right? It makes it more clear as far as being able to check those boxes of successes, right?
Yeah.
we talk about all the time, life is a battle of little wins, right? If you could break down your wins into small digestible things and check those off along the way, you're going to find yourself being more confident, and you're going to find yourself having more motivation to keep plugging away with that training process, right? So look for those things, define exactly what your success is going to look like and what your goals are going to be, right? All of those general goals, as you tackle those other things, will improve with it, but you just have to more clearly define what you want.
Yeah.
Next thing. What are your bad habits? This is another thing where you have to define and write out where are the areas that I myself need to improve, right? A lot of people look at all the issues their dog has. They look at all the issues that everybody else has. They look at all the issues of where the trainer didn't help them, this, that, whatever, right? If you want to improve anywhere in your life, in your relationships, in your professional life, in your relationship with your dog, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we have to take accountability and figure out first and foremost, what things of my own can I control, right? So I said, obviously we want to focus on our dog and their issues, but it's equally important to stop our bad habits that may be creating these things. Struggling with arousal when guests come over, but getting your dog level 15 amped up as soon as you get home from work, you're equally to blame for this, right? I don't say this in a shaming way by any means, right? Obviously, I know that so much of this, like we said at the beginning, is an education issue. But once you make that commitment to, I am going to crush my training goals this year with my dog, those are a part of the success. So look at the areas that you're having issues with your dog and ask yourself the question, how am I screwing this up, right? How am not just, and again, always trying to equate this back to situations I've experienced with clients, right? We've seen in the past people come in, let's say post board and train, right? They come in for their 1 week check-in a week later, and they're all frustrated and mad at us because they're like, the dog doesn't get it. The training didn't work.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 whatever, you know, they're it's always, it's something wrong with you or it's something wrong with the dog, right? And it's interesting because we'll take that dog and we'll start asking them to do things and the dog does it all perfectly, right? And it's like,
Weird.
strange. And then I'm like, all right, well, show me how you're doing it.
Yeah.
Right? And they'll go and do it. And it's everything's incorrect.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, were you paying attention at all? And you're sitting up?
It's, again, and I'm clarifying, this is not a like you're doing, this is not a me blaming you necessarily for things. It's me encouraging owners to take responsibility as far as always looking internally at, am I doing things in the best way possible to set my dog up for success, right? If you're not communicating in the proper ways with your dog, if you're not understanding how you're creating the behavioral issues that you're having with your dog, and you're not taking responsibility of those bad habits you have, actually writing them out somewhere so you have a reference of every time you do it, I'm not supposed to do that. It's clearly written right there. You will find success with your dog. And frankly, half the time, if you take those bad habits, and if you simply do nothing with your dog aside from remove your bad habits, man, most of those issues go away.
They're gone. Wow.
Most of them go away, you know? It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
You know? It's like if you just stop for a minute, it gets better sometimes.
Yep.
So that's another thing. What are your bad habits? Okay. Next one. Don't overwhelm yourself or your dog with too much at once. So what I said here, I said, if you have 15 nuisance behaviors you want to work on with your dog, start with 2 at a time. You'll be more consistent about correcting them every time. And as you work through the list, you'll likely find others dissipate on their own, right? So this is a big one, right? It gets easy to look at, and this is a big one with anything. If I have a laundry list of 15 things I need to get done today, and I try to do all of those things at once, right? It's not going to go very well, right? I'm going to get stressed out beyond belief, and I'm not going to do very well at any of them, right?
Yeah.
And this is why small, micro, baby steps exist for a reason with anything, right? Because if you could just focus on a couple things at once, if you could just focus one thing at a time, let's work through this list, you're going to find that because you're being so dialed in towards that certain thing, you'll be able to find that success and be as consistent as possible with that thing. And in addition to that, your dog will process that information much better because it will be more clear and more direct as far as the one thing we care about right now.
Yep.
Right? This could be behavioral issues. This could be we're trying to stop jumping, barking out the window, jumping on guests, getting into the trash can, digging holes in the backyard, picking up socks, stealing food if it falls on the ground, whatever. It could be 17 different things, or it could be training things. It could be you take your dog out for a training session and you're trying to work on your sits, you're trying to work on your downs, you're trying to work on your bed commands, you're trying to work on your come commands. And because you're doing all those things at once, the dog is overwhelmed by them as well and performs all of them half-assed, right?
Yep.
Focus on one thing at a time and get that one thing really freaking good, then move on to the next.
Yeah.
Right? That's anything. Anything in life. Focus on one thing at a time.
Got to get used to this again.
Get used to talking, man. All right, next one. Schedule formal training time in realistic chunks. Right. So this is this could apply with, people that have issues with going to the gym, right? Creating new habits, stuff like that. Don't set yourself an unrealistic goal, right? If it's something that you know you're not going to commit to, if you try to set it, all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
Right. So I said, if you're a busy guy like me, it could be hard to commit to something every single day. Then if you fall off the wagon, it'll be even harder to get back on the wagon. Instead, block out 3 to 4 30-minute training sessions a week that you can more likely stick to, right? So with your dog, obviously, I'm not going to train my dog every single day. It ain't going to happen, right? Like there's way too many other things that I want to do. And by the time I get to it, it's like, I just don't want to do it, right?
Yep.
So with waffles, for example, I try to set out specific times in small chunks. If I can get 2 or 3 good training sessions in with him a week, I know I'm moving along and I don't feel down on myself for not doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From there, if I want to get an extra one in, that's fine, but it's never in my mind the requirement. So set yourself realistic chunks of time with things. And that could apply to then going back to hiring a trainer, what training program you sign up for. Board and train versus one-on-one. It's not that it can't be done in the one-on-ones, and those one-on-ones are very appealing to people because they're obviously at a significantly cheaper price point. But you got to be honest with yourself. Are you going to put in the homework in between those sessions? Because if you're not, you are just pissing your money away. You'll find results, you know what I mean? But like, you're not going to have the motivation to keep going along like some of our clients do. Like, you could tell the clients that just fucking crush the one-on-ones versus the ones that they just realize very quickly, this is more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
You know? And you see it in the results. And it's not that they don't find success. It's just that you could tell when they come in, you ask them how to go, oh, well, this last week was busy. We're moving this, that, it's like, all right, well, we'll keep moving the needle, but it's not going to be as fast as some of these other people that come in. And it's like, I'm like, all right, cool. Work on what we worked on next week. And they just fucking nail it.
Yep.
Nail it, dude. Like, some of them come in, it's just like, goddamn, it's hats off, right?
Yeah.
So something else to keep in mind, obviously, realistic chunks for your training. Be realistic with yourself about what you can get done. And obviously, all of this stuff works together, obviously, because if you're working with a trainer that's helping to coach you through the most efficient ways to do things, you are defining what your success is and what your bad habits are. You're picking just one thing at a time to work on, and you're doing it in realistic chunks of time that you can commit to every day. God damn, that's a recipe for success right there.
Yeah.
Next thing here, we've discussed this 9 million times. Develop your dog's food drive. So I said, it sounds simple, but it isn't. Get your dogs feeding right now. I said, non-food motivated dogs do not exist. If your dog is leaving food in the bowl when you feed or turning their head to a treat during training, they are being fed too much, period.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, non-food motivated dogs don't exist. Now, there are different calibers of food drive, right? Not every dog is going to be like an absolute monster psychopath like Vinny is for food, right? But every dog is motivated enough for food when they're on a proper schedule where you could reinforce behaviors.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't have it, you're immediately nixing 50% of your dog's learning abilities. You know, they'll still figure this stuff out, but it'll be slower. It won't be as fun for everybody, you know, and you're just doing your dog a disservice, because then we've talked in the past about the behavioral issues that coincide with dogs that are being overfed.
Yeah.
And them not feeling good, right? And, you know, equating, I always say, you know, if your dog is being overfed, equate that to you eating McDonald's every single day and just how you fucking feel throughout the day when you do that. Ain't gonna be great.
Yeah. And we use Bender's dinner as,
It just makes it easier.
you know, yeah.
Another point on that, obviously, if you're using your dog's food in the training process, make sure that you're not adding additional to it. So in your case, Bender's dinner, right? You're making sure you're not giving 10x additional treats that are then causing you to, even if your feeding is right, then you're causing you to overfeed your dog by giving all of this extra on top.
That's
of it.
true. Yeah.
You know, so you got to factor that in. I used the example before of we had a client come in that was feeding their dog like literally like a 65-pound dog was feeding like a quarter cup of meal, but it was because they were feeding these like edible marrow bones in between, and they did the math on like, this is what the calorie count of these marrow bones is versus this is the count on the kibble. So even though it was such a low amount of kibble, the dog was still getting their daily allowance of what they needed.
Yeah.
So factor those things in.
Yep.
Last thing here. Ignore the naysayers and take charge of being who your dog needs you to be. This kind of gets into what are your bad habits, because I would consider this a bad habit, but it's a little different. So I worded it a little differently here. So I said a lot of the boundaries you will need to set will catch you flack from family and friends. That's okay, because your dog needs... Wait, hold on. What did I say? That's okay, because what your dog needs is you to be the one to carry that burden and be the leader you know you can be for them. That's all that matters.
It's true.
Right? So here's the thing. The amount of times actually, this doesn't even really happen that much anymore, because people kind of have gotten it,
Yeah.
you know? But like when I first started training, when I would set these rules of like, hey, leave my dog alone if they're over there. Hey, I'm only going to have my dogs out in these situations, et cetera, I would get so much bullshit from people. Oh, let them play. No, don't leave them in their crate. Right? And it's like, I get it. I get where you're coming from. And I understand how to somebody that isn't totally confident and set in their ways of these new habits they're trying to create, how that can be very difficult, right? Obviously, peer pressure is a thing. Some people are more susceptible to it than others.
Yeah.
And especially if you don't know as deeply as I do why these things are so important, it gets easy to slip on those things sometimes, right? But like I said, these boundaries you need to set. If you don't set them, somebody will. That somebody is your dog.
Yep.
And 99% of the issues we see with our dogs are due to us being too loose about the boundaries in situations where our dog is not comfortable, and our dog choosing to handle those situations on their own because, frankly, we are not being the person our dog needs us to be.
Yep.
Right? So the quicker we can understand that, the quicker we can be more consistent about setting those rules and boundaries, the easier everything's going to be in the long run.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it really is as simple as that. Like a lot of these things you look at, a lot of these things are you things. A lot of these things are improving yourself to improve your dog. Being the person your dog needs you to be, ignoring the naysayers. It's a you thing. Developing food drive. Our dog's not going in the fridge and getting extra food for themselves.
No.
That's an us thing. Scheduling formal training time. That's an us thing. Not overwhelming yourself. That's an us thing. Your bad habits. That's an us thing. Defining your goals. That's an us thing. Hire a trainer. That's an us thing. Right? All of these things come down to us taking responsibility for our dog and for our issues that we're having with our dog, and us being humble enough to seek out the proper information and set ourselves and our dogs up for success with these types of things.
Bingo.
So pay attention to these things. A lot of people going into 2022, big goals with their dogs. We got a lot of people signed up for training for 2022 so far. Getting ready to start, getting ready to get cruising on these things. Pay attention to this stuff.
Yeah.
This is something I would recommend that everybody getting cruising on training should start to do.
Those people took the first step. They found a trainer.
They did. So now we just got to coach him through the rest of it.